Just the lights? Oh, well, good morning, everyone. It's the appointed hour, and let's call to order the meeting of the MAPS 3 Citizens Advisory Board for November the 20th, 2014. We're delayed a couple of minutes. My light wasn't working, and so I didn't know the mic was working. And then when I started whispering here and I could hear it, I knew the mic was working.
Your mic is working.
The light isn't working, but the mic's working. So all's good. Well, welcome, everyone. Let's call the meeting to order. You've had before you in your packet the minutes of the October 23rd meeting. Are there additions or corrections to those minutes? It's been moved that we approve them, and it's been seconded. Further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The minutes are approved. Item 3 is the MAPS 3 Revenue and Expenditure Report for the term ending October 31st, 2014. David, you want to bring us the good news?
Yes, sir, I can. You have in your packet the Revenue and Expenditure Report for the period ending October 31st, 2014 in its usual form. For the month, we have, on the revenue side, for the month, we have $9,380,204. You notice the interest is not shown there because it was not posted by the time we got this, but I can tell you that I have that information now. And we also had the same issue last month, so I'll tell you that last month's interest was $132,435.46. This month's, I should say September's, and this October interest is $148,596.57. And that is, as I said, a timing issue with when that posts and when we have to get these done. And then for fiscal year on the revenue side, we have $37,186,992 for a total program revenue of $453,930,351. On the expenditures for the month, we have $2,784,270 with some significant money being spent at the fairgrounds, and that is construction related. Health and wellness is consultant related. We have 2 of those going on. The river is construction with phase 2 and the Whitewater, and trails is construction with the trails. Sidewalks is predominantly construction dollars for the sidewalks. Expenditures for the fiscal year, $11,612,812. For total program expenditures of $74,579,222. Then you also have your budget and obligations report for the period ending November 7th, 2014. I'd be glad to answer any questions.
You want to mention, David, the following page, the budget and obligations report, while you have the floor.
Right. Okay, you also have the budget and obligations report for November 17, 2014 in its usual form.
Are there any questions? Michael, let's begin with you, our resident CFO. Any comment or question?
No, I think it's, the report we've seen in the past, and I don't have any questions. I guess I would point out in the budget and obligations report, obviously, the infrastructure and contingency line reflects the allocation of the $36 million that the council put toward the convention center recently. And so, it looks like we have only $11 million in contingency left, but I would also point out, I think City Manager Couch made a good point during that meeting that our collections are 6% over, and that represents, I think, about $25 million to date that we've collected in excess of what we expected, as well as the $6 million or so in interest. So even though the contingency looks maybe at $11 million, there is still, I think, a substantial amount of funds, if all holds out, that will be available in the future.
That's unallocated.
Unallocated, right.
You bet. Thank you. Other questions? Then shall we, someone want to move that we receive the report? Is there a second? Second. All in favor say aye. Aye. The report's received. That brings us to item 4 on the agenda. You have in your packet the proposed meeting schedule for 2015, which I guess, David, substantially reflects the times that we meet now. That is the 4th Thursday of each month, except in November and December.
That is exactly right. And those 2 meetings we've moved to 11 a.m. because we have a conflict with another board that meets. And that's why we're meeting today at 11. We will also meet next month in December at 11 because of that same conflict.
Are there questions about the proposed meeting schedule? Is there a second?
I guess we want the time on the schedule, you want to change to 11 a.m. for those last two meetings.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. Then we're asking to approve the meeting schedule as amended. It's to show that we meet at 11 o'clock on the, yes, go ahead.
Okay, never mind, I understand. I was just thinking, that's a year out. How do we know that it's going to be 11 o'clock?
Well, I guess the idea is we'll set it at something, and then if it has to be changed between now and next year, we'll change it. All right, so the meeting schedule is before you, and it's been moved and seconded. We approve it. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The meeting schedule is approved. David, tell us about the MAPS 3 Senior Health and Wellness Center, item 5 on the agenda.
We have a whole lot of activity going on with the wellness centers now. As you know, we went a long time trying to find direction on that, and now we're well underway, and I'm very happy to bring you a presentation today from GSB and Ryan Eshelman, and they're doing what we call Wellness Center 1, for lack of a better name. And they're, if you recall, they've already done their preliminary report, and this is about halfway through final plans, so he's going to show you where they are on that.
Ryan, welcome.
Thank you. This is, as David mentioned, a progress report. We are in the final plan stage. We had the opportunity to make this presentation to the subcommittee yesterday. So here to let you know where we are and what we're up to, and certainly answer any questions you have about the process. As we mentioned in previous presentations, we went through an exhaustive programming process late in the spring and early in the summer to arrive at the elements that would compose this center, and those conversations occurred with the MAPS team and with our operating partner, Healthy Living. And so we've arrived at a fairly full menu of elements which will be included in the project. You can see those listed here. The highlights include a hybrid fitness pool, which will include both lap swimming and classes and casual swimming. It will include a oversized gymnasium with full-size basketball court and apron space to allow for a walking course around the court, conditioned walking area. Fitness facilities, fitness studios, multi-purpose classrooms, lobby and social spaces, and some casual kind of coffee shop type of food service provisions for the space to enhance that social activity. So that's kind of a list of all of the things that are included in the facility. As you recall, our site is located on the northeast corner of the present Putnam City Baptist Church site, just north of 112th and Rockwell. Our site will have direct access from Rockwell as well as connectivity to the church property, and will abut that residential district to the north. You can see the building fronts the street and faces south towards the parking lot. At this point, we've gone from pretty pictures to real technical drawings. This is a site plan, and the important thing to note here is the bold line around the perimeter of the project, which is basically the property line that will demarcate the land to be transferred and sold from the church to the city as the site for the project. You can also see on the site there is a detention area, some programmed outdoor space, and of course the parking serving the facility. The pretty colored floor plans have given way to technical plans. The building has not changed in any meaningful way, although we're continuing to develop that design and specify finishes and materials for each of those spaces. As you recall, the exterior view from Rockwell, showing the arrival, the lobby space, and some of the outdoor amenities. Inside the primary lobby and social space, this is the check-in desk to your left, a cafe, coffee shop element to your right, lots of informal seating, gathering space, and then access to the balance of the facility from this hub. One of the other social spaces that's been provided is near the fitness area. You can see access to the gym and the fitness center. There's also an aerobic studio, which is just outside of this image, but it also creates an area for informal gathering and also good visibility into the fitness spaces. There will be people which come to this facility who may never have exercised before, and so they'll be able to, as they move around the building, see people of their own age and ability levels exercising, and the hope is that we can ease lots of folks into this healthy lifestyle by giving them exposure, and maybe after coming for a few times they think, you know, I can do that, I'm going to give it a try, and we'll have the resources to assist them in those kinds of activities. And of course, the fitness pool is a key component to the program. The fitness pool, as I mentioned, is designed as a hybrid of a lap pool and an activity pool. We'll have a slightly warmer water temperature to accommodate all of those activities. It will have areas of standing depth for water classes. It will also have some areas of 6-foot depth for full buoyancy and those kinds of activities. It will have ramped access as well as steps and a lift, so people of all abilities and mobility can access the pool. It will also have plenty of daylight flooding the space as well. The construction budget for our project, excluding the soft costs and the land purchase, just the building and the FF&E inside of the building is $8.6 million, slightly over 8.6. When we came to you at preliminary report, we had a construction estimate that showed that we were going to be able to build the project within that budget. At 60% of our final plans, we had a drawing milestone and had an estimate done. And based on the development of the design and the work that had been accomplished, the estimate reflected a project that was about $400,000 above our previous estimate. So part of our job and part of our process is to go through the design and to determine where those cost overages occurred and how we can get the project back into budget without meaningful sacrifices to the operation or appearance of the building. What you see here is a list of items that were identified out of that estimate as contributors to the change in the cost estimate, and we are going line by line with our team to identify areas where we can reduce cost, still provide a quality, durable project that meets all of the city's criteria. You can see some of those things such as the exterior cladding, what product that we specify for the exterior of the building. We're working through that with different manufacturers to find cost savings. Elements such as the glazing quantities, we have some ample glass in some key areas, and without a meaningful change, meaning if we take the top of a window down from 14 feet to 12 feet, we still have plenty of daylight, but we can cut some glass out of the building, which is an expensive finish. We're doing a lot with light fixtures, which manufacturers, which fixtures we're selecting. There's meaningful savings there, particularly in the pool. The lighting system for the pool that was originally selected was quite expensive, and we're looking at other options. So you can see all of those kind of areas of focus. Our next milestone is at 95% of our work, and that occurs in early December, and we'll be having another cost estimate done at that point to show us where we are in the process and the progress we've made on these items. Our job is to bring the project in within budget, but we also want to deliver the most project we can within the money. So coming in way under is also not desirable because we leave project on the table. So we're trying to walk that fine line and give the citizens everything that we can afford. I will mention one item. We have maintained a design contingency within our estimate of about 2.5%, which amounts to roughly $200,000. That contingency was a larger percentage at preliminary report, and that's just to allow for the things that we discover in the design process. Ultimately, when they get to the end, that contingency gets turned into real items. I say that only because if we scratch that contingency and used it up now, we could cut our $400,000 in half. But that's not a prudent thing to do at this point. So we're holding that $200,000 contingency in our estimate as we work and working to eliminate the overage that you see here. So hopefully that's an explanation of where we are in the process and how we're working to balance and manage the budget as we design.
So is the timeline such that, we've had this issue with some other projects, and I think we talked a lot about trying not to get to any fatal places where we couldn't decide to add things back. Are you kind of balancing that timeline? So something like making the windows smaller is a really big decision. And at what place, would you have to say, we're going to have to make them smaller, we're going to have to decide to do something else?
Well, we are in the process of making those kinds of decisions, and I want to be clear about that window item. The changes that we would make would be, in our view, very modest. So when I say reducing a window from 14 to 12, these windows in here are 14 feet tall, and bringing those down a couple of feet, you might walk in tomorrow and not even notice it. So we're not talking about eliminating windows in which we have a building that's a tomb. But what we are talking about is not making dramatic programmatic changes, saying, well, we're just going to chop this room off the building because that takes a big chunk of money. Meaningful things that would affect the use of the building, the way it's operated. We feel like where we are in the process and where we are with the budget, we can accomplish these things by tuning the design. And we also, we can't bring it back to you for approval to go to bid until we have proven confidence that we are within the money. So it's our job between now and our goal, and I'll show you a schedule in a moment, our goal is to come back to you in January with a project that's ready to go to bid, and we need to be able to show we believe it's in the money. Of course, it's an estimate, and the market does funny things, but we need to do our due diligence. And at this point, as I mentioned, we're not doing anything to meaningfully affect the design or function of the building. I hope that answers your question.
It does. And I guess maybe even to clarify a little further, perhaps when it goes to bid, if we were so lucky as we have been on some others, and it came in under budget, there may be some of these.
And I'm glad you brought up that point. We have included, at the city's direction, which is a prudent way to manage this, we have included add alternates in our design, which are non-critical elements, meaning if we had to open the door without them, everything would be fine. But they enhance the facility, and we can add those to the menu on bid day. So if we have great news and we say, you know what, we have another $150,000 to spend, let's buy some more for the building. So all of that is being allowed for.
Thank you for that
Okay.
thoughtful response.
The last thing I'll mention is schedule. As I described, our work is intended to wrap up right after the beginning of the year so that it can come to you at the end of the month in January. And that would allow for basically a February bid period and hopefully construction to begin around April of next year. And I apologize, my typing skills are poor, and I have noted January as last year. That is incorrect. That is 2015. So that is, things could change and could be adjusted slightly, but that's a general roadmap for where we're headed. And that's all I came to present, but I certainly welcome any questions you have about where we are and where we're headed and how we're getting there.
Well, thank you, Ryan. Let's start with Mike Dover, who chairs the subcommittee. Any comment or questions from you, Mike?
Well, Tom, thank you. I'd just like to thank Ryan and Bill Fleming and the folks at Helping Living Inc. That have spent so much time and effort. And this is, as everyone can see, we've got a well-designed, I think, senior wellness center that we all should be proud of. I know I am. Again, thank you, Ryan. We're going to see a little bit, of course, on our second wellness center, too. And I'd just like to say, one of the things that the subcommittee talked quite a bit about is we didn't want to have cookie-cutter wellness centers. We wanted to have unique senior wellness centers, and that they would meet the needs of the operating partner and that operating partner's vision and goals. And what's so exciting to some of us on the subcommittee is that that's exactly what we're going to see. So, again, thank you, Ryan. Job well done.
Thank you. Gloria?
Well, I certainly echo what Mike has stated. We had a very productive meeting yesterday, your presentation, and it's become very clear to us, and he was able to answer those questions. We had concerns also regarding those reductions and what impact it would have on the operation of the facility and service to the seniors. And he assured us that those things would be prioritized and it would have minimum impact on operation.
Anyone else have a question? Michael?
You mentioned the construction begins April 2015. Refresh my memory, how long will it take, and when might we expect the center to be open?
Well, that certainly will fall to the general contractor to determine, but we have estimated that, if my memory serves me correctly, 15 to 18 months is a reasonable time frame for construction for a project of this size and complexity. So that would be a starting point, but would certainly be the general contractor's responsibility to determine their construction schedule.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Bob?
Don't really have a question. It's just sort of a point of personal privilege. Before I came on to this board and switched over to the Fairgrounds Committee, I was privileged to serve on the Senior Wellness Subcommittee under Mike and watched this process from the very beginning when we had nothing but sort of an abstract vision of what we would do with senior wellness, having promised the citizens we'd put 4 or 5 of them in of some kind. And it is marvelous to see how it has moved from that very abstract idea or concept into something that you can really grab hold of and is exciting to watch. And on top of that, I'm excited that as I become ever more senior, this center is only slightly more than a mile from my house. And I'm looking forward to roughly the summer of 2016 when I can enjoy that facility. So a job well done, especially by Mike and Gloria and their subcommittee and Ryan and your group. It's amazing to see.
One thing we have heard from consultants around the country that we've worked with is that everyone in the senior center community is buzzing about, one, the commitment the city is making and the amount of money that they're committing to these facilities. And I suspect that in a few years, as these facilities come online, there'll be a lot of interested tour groups that are showing up at our doorstep wanting to know how and what we've done here and how we've done it. So it's exciting to be a part of something that a lot of communities don't have the foresight or luxury to tackle with on this kind of scale in particular.
Ryan, I thank you as well, and Michael and Gloria and Bob and everyone who served on that subcommittee. It's been a great team effort with David and his staff and our consultants at ADG, Mike and Nicole. This has been perhaps the most challenging project for us to get off the board, simply because of what Bob said. It was an abstract vision, and to see it come to fruition, I think, is very exciting and inspirational for all of us. So I offer my thanks as well for a job well done, and thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Ryan?
I guess, Chairman, I would just share, I had the same thought that Bob did. I'm not feeling quite as badly about those birthdays as I was before. I can't wait to be able to take advantage of this.
Well, you and Bob are thinking about the timing is going to be right. I'm just worried about it being too late. Anyway, move along as fast as you can, Ryan.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'll look forward to seeing you in January.
Okay. All right, that brings us to item 6. Next presentation, David.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Continuing on with our wellness theme, we have a presentation on Wellness Center number 2, and we have Alan Brown and a cast of several here from FSB to talk to you about Wellness Center 2, and you haven't seen anything on Wellness Center 2 because it is a little behind schedule-wise as compared to Wellness Center 1.
Sure.
So they're in the preliminary stages, so this will be the first you've seen of Wellness Center 2.
It's not behind schedule, it's just not quite as far as long as.
Exactly. After I started saying that, I realized it sounded like it was behind schedule, but it's just not as far advanced as Wellness 1.
Well, Alan, welcome. We're glad that you're on schedule and moving
Good morning.
along.
Thank
Go
you.
ahead.
I think we're actually ahead of schedule if you look at the implementation plan. So,
Attaboy.
all right. So we're glad to be here this morning to give you an update on where we are on the design of the Senior Health and Wellness Center number 2. The project requirements, I'm not going to go through that, but we have met with our operating partner, NorthCare, significantly to adapt that to their operating program to reflect their vision. That's the starting point for the project. And here is the budget summary that's in the project requirements. You can see our total construction budget is $10,560,000, and a project contingency outside of that is $603,000. We've been working hard to balance the budget and the program, and at this point, we are within that amount, what you'll see in a few minutes. Our project team is, of course, City of Oklahoma City. Our facility operator is North Care. Program consultant, of course, ADG. Our design architect consultant is Moody Nolan from Columbus, Ohio. Landscape architect Howard Fairburn, site design, and aquatics designer is Councilman Hunsaker, who actually is doing the aquatics for Wellness Center 1 as well. As I mentioned, we've had quite a few meetings with the operator in the city to refine the program and the budget. We started in July, including a site visit to San Diego to look at a facility that North Care is kind of using as a model in some ways. Several programming meetings to adapt the program, concept design when we started getting to the sketches and the plans, evolved into, and also always checking back to the budget to make sure that we were proposing something that was realistic, evolved into schematic design that you'll see today, and that we'll be developing to the preliminary report within the next month for submittal. With that, I'd like to ask Randy Tate with North Care to talk about their vision for the program. Randy?
I'm glad to be here today. Thanks for having me. As a preliminary remark, I'd like to just tell you that the architectural firms FSB and Moody Nolan have been top-notch, so well organized. Our time has been extraordinarily well spent. Also, city staff Todd and Susan have been amazing. So accolades to them. Our vision really was to use a concept called the universal matrix of wellness, so that we identified appropriate activities for every level of functioning for seniors. And so on one paradigm, it has the universal selected and indicated kind of things to consider. Universal are for individuals who are generally healthy without major concerns, and you want to keep them healthy and moving forward. Indicated may be individuals who have a health issue on the horizon. Maybe there's obesity, smoking, unhealthy behaviors, maybe something biological, but it's not at a state of chronic disease yet. And then selected would have to do, vice versa. That was selected. And then indicated is when there is a chronic disease state like diabetes, hypertension, or something like that needs to be treated, or something more serious where there may be even at risk of nursing home care or something like that. So we want to have activities for the full range of functioning for seniors. We also wanted to have all the kinds of inputs that we needed for communication to make sure we're running this as a world-class senior wellness center. So we have our own board of directors that's serving as a governance for us, but we also plan to put together an advisory board. And the advisory board still could have a lot of changes before this thing is up and running, but we anticipate the organizations that fund the services that are actually part of the operations having input. We anticipate the partners that make up the collaborations that are working within the Senior Wellness Center, and some individuals who are seniors coming to the center being on this board as well. And then, of course, we want a completely consumer senior board that's advising us all the time on how this should be fluid and constantly changing and meeting their needs. We have a number of high-quality, nonprofit collaborators. I won't go through the names unless you particularly need me to, but they're all listed here. We've only had a couple drop off from the initial time that we proposed. There was a chiropractor that we had looked at, but he didn't want to move to the south side, and we eliminated a couple of services with one of the providers as a result of the move. But really, for the most part, the overall initial bid that we submitted with the range of services is pretty much still in place. Just showing you that how this works with the services. So, for example, in this really general offering, by the way, and while we have services planned for people at different levels, they're free to use whatever's at the center. But I'm just demonstrating that we've thought of every category. So you have swimming, fitness, nutrition education, low and no-cost meals, food pantry, community gardens, arts and crafts, cyber cafe, lifelong learning classes, chronic disease screenings, immunizations, caregiver supports that are, basically very general kinds of things at the center. Then you step that up, and we have, for Tier 2, we have an integrated health clinic with primary and behavioral health services, meaning a psychiatrist or a general family practice doc working side by side. We'll have a pharmacy on site, specialized classes to address specialized needs, wellness, coach access, etc. And in Tier 3, this would be, these are also some additional things for people who are more frail. We'll have the daily living centers will be providing adult day health clinic. This could be for people with cognitive disorders or with very frail physical health, and it'll be a place where they can come and receive some services geared to their very specialized place in life, while their partners may access the rest of the facility and provide a respite so that those partners can enjoy the facility and not have to worry about their loved one. The other thing that we have kind of proposed is this concept, not a place, but a concept of the salon based on 17th and 18th century salon, a place of entertainment. It's vibrant, it's constantly changing, all kinds of activities. We anticipate working with seniors to create events. They may want to invite the public to these things, or it may be open just to the seniors themselves. But it could be anything from poetry readings to a senior fashion show to, a concert, a cooking demonstration, any kind of fun thing. But that should be a part of the programming. It's constantly changing and keeping the place exciting. And any questions before I give this back to Alan?
Questions? Thank you, Randy.
Thank you, Randy. As Mike said, all these facilities are different, and we're really excited about reflecting Randy's vision in the design. And to kind of go over that, I'd like to introduce Mark Bodine, with a partner with Moody Nolan from Columbus, Ohio, to go through the programming and the design. Mark?
Great.
Thank you, Alan. Well, we're very excited because of the partner we have on this, the vision that the city had, and then the vision that NorthCare brought to this project, and how do we turn that into a concept that really builds around all the ideas of what is silver design, for a lifespan that's 40 years. There's different levels of from 50 to 90 plus, different levels of activity, different levels of ability, a need for flexibility in a building, and a need for a building to be vibrant that takes the idea of the salon and the openness and really starts developing it into a center that is an active, exciting place. From the wellness side, we see it as a path of your life of 40 years of different levels of ability, a path that really goes to the idea of movement being a critical part of the wellness of seniors. As I enter those ages, my father went through it, people moving was a key to that. It may be jogging at the beginning, then it becomes walking, it might turn into shuffling and rolling, but it's an idea of keeping moving in a safe environment that encourages people to move, to interact with each other, to participate in programs, and do whatever ability they might have. That includes the ability to use the aquatics areas for that, where you have very low impact and people can move and work individually and do lap swimming, do classes, and actually recreate in the pool as well. It's a path that is sometimes in groups where we have group fitness areas and sort of a very high ceilinged multi-purpose room, or individual use of equipment for different ranges of pieces of mobility, of rehabilitation, of toning. All of those pieces that we encourage seniors to come together. And then in the idea of the salon that Randy mentioned, the idea that there's education involved with support for technology, of a cyber cafe, of diet and nutrition being a part of wellness, and the opportunity for congregate meals, for demonstration kitchens, and for integrated health clinics to provide services to seniors as they need this. Get them on the path when they become 50, and the services are there in our facility to maintain them living at home, living a vibrant life through the entire course. It's an idea of creating open space. Randy brought the vision of wanting this to be an open building, inviting, to not have corridors, to have natural light, to have the ability to come and see all the activities that go on in this facility. And the high prioritization, the maps document gave each operator the ability to look at different options and find out what is the highest priority and bring those forward and let each of the facilities be different. And this facility is quite a bit different from the other facility. It's 36,000 gross square feet of spaces that have been designed to break down into those areas that we've talked about. And then for the site, I'd like Alan to talk a little bit about the site that was selected.
Okay. Yeah, we're going to tag team just a little bit here. The site is, as you know, is south of Capitol Hill High School, south of Grand Boulevard along Walker. It's north of a city park called Hosea Vineyard Park. And what's interesting about this is that both of those facilities will be able to, we'll be able to work with both those facilities. The park to the south is planning a new walking trail that the senior center can actually access and use as well. And to the north is the high school, and they can use some of the facilities. There's a tennis court and parking for their special events. These are views looking across the site. These are panoramas that go across the site. On the top one, looking west, you can see the tennis courts on the left, and that is actually Walker. If you on the bottom, looking southeast from the west side, that's the edge of the site on the west border. There's a fence, and it's all school property right now. This is a survey that shows the existing site. See if this, you obviously can't see it on your screens, but the tennis courts was our original site here. This is a parking lot that's existing, and it is currently zoned R1. It's all owned by the school district, and there is some site challenges. There's a 10-foot drop across the site that requires a little extra work on site development as well, and that we have to relocate the tennis courts as part of the arrangement with the school district and build new tennis courts for them. Area plan. I'm going to turn it back over to Mark. We're getting the design now, and he can go through the concept a little bit.
When we look at this site, it's a great site with the connection to the park and the high visibility along Walker and the ability for parking and the ability to share parking with its neighboring facilities. It was really a project that we looked at how it fit the site of creating a building that had a front door, a front porch, and a backyard and a back porch that connected to the park. Parklands, the front door having a drop-off loop that has covered drop-off for buses, for individual cars, this place for people to sit and wait in a front porch setting. And then it connects very closely to the middle to what we call the back porch, which is the covered area on the south side, but shaded with both overhangs and trellises that create an outdoor space. When you look at the building, the idea is you came up to this building, you always saw activity. You had different choices of things to get involved in. We had, as you came through the center of the building, which is right at the center of this facility, a space that's accessed by an accessible path from every single parking space in the facility. You came in, you saw activity, you saw people walking by, jogging by, you saw people in different levels of different types of lounge seating. They might be watching television, they might be playing games, they might be working on equipment. And as you came into that center of the building, you also had access to a cyber cafe and a coffee cafe that was right there, a welcome desk from which point anybody could look and see all the activities. We tried to do a building without corridors, a building that was flooded with natural light, where the circulation was a path of its own, where people would go from the salon of different types of salon settings, where people would have different opportunities to interact with each other. On the west wing, we have the more educational and health-related areas, which include a clinic, the adult daycare, a large multi-purpose room that has an associated warming kitchen that is used for catering for congregate meals, and a large arts studio with a kiln and an adjacent outdoor arts courtyard. In the center, we have, again, right from that center area, the direct access to the back porch, to outdoor seating that's shaded. You have views directly into the individual fitness area, which is a combination of cardiovascular and weights training and circuit training. That's equipment designed for seniors. You have views into the multi-purpose spaces, which are sized to be high enough and large enough that they could serve yoga at certain times, but other times they could be senior volleyball or pickleball or badminton. And then as you move right along the facility, we sort of have the games and aquatic salon, where there's seating down in an area near the pool, which is out towards Walker. The pool is designed where it has privacy for people getting in the pool, but it's accessible, and people see the pool is there. You can stand in the middle of this building and see light at both ends of the space, through the art space on one end, through the aquatics area on the other end. Finally, one of the real literal interpretations of path was we've included a mezzanine space in our facility that has a walking jogging path. It's about a 17th of a mile. That is a course that everyone can participate in. Again, whether they're jogging, whether they're walking, whether they're shuffling, whether they're rolling. It's a safe place that has no traffic or pedestrians crossing it. It has incredible views out to the park, to the school, to Walker. It has views inside into the fitness rooms, into the multi-purpose rooms, and into the lobby space. So there's always people moving. There's always that encouragement that anyone can participate in that. So again, we've wrapped this up as a building that tries to be light, always has a sense of activity, and encourages people to get in at age 50, do the more active spaces, then have the services there to support them through the rest of their life and living in a home situation. We have a very first look at what this facility might be. It is designed to have materials that feel more home-like, but not be institutional, to be more like a high-end hotel or some facility like that, a very facility that's dynamic and always changing, that the needs can change, that the building is adaptable to, as seniors and the needs of senior change over the next 20, 30 years, it can adapt to that. Okay. This is just a closer-up piece where you can see the idea of a very light entrance space, covered drop-off, and again, as you walk up to the space, you see activity of people in the lounges, you see people running by in the windows up above, and really trying to, again, tie this all together as a path of activity.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Mark. Okay. To summarize where we are in the project, we're at task one right now. We're at schematic design. Have completed that study and are working on the preliminary report, which we will submit in December for approval. That should be probably in January now instead. So that'll be the next time that we'll be here to see you guys to discuss our preliminary report, which will show a lot more detail and the cost estimates at that point. So with that, does anybody have any questions for any of the team members that we can answer?
Alan, while you stay there, I'll ask Mike if the subcommittee has any comments they want to make.
Oh, well, again, I think you can see why we're so excited moving forward with this second wellness center and how it is different from the first. One of the unique things about this particular wellness center, I will remind you, is that we thought we were going to be building this on Parks land, Oklahoma City Park property. And as it turned out, what we learned is that this is actually on land belonging to the Oklahoma City Public Schools. And so we worked on a relationship and a partnership with the public schools, and that on the very, very poorly not maintained, the city did a good job maintaining, but poorly degenerative tennis courts, what we're now going to be able to do is the money that was going to be used to buy property, we're going to be able to build new tennis courts adjacent to the Wellness Center on Parkland, 6 brand new tennis courts that will be lighted and will be parking. It will be just wonderful. So that partnership, I think, with Oklahoma City Public Schools and the City of Oklahoma City Parks Department has kind of a unique partnership that I think we're all excited about. You can see from Randy's presentation the other nonprofit organizations that will comprise the Wellness Center brings with that operating revenue that will help, of course, maintain the whole facility. And so I just want to thank Alan and thank Mark and Randy. And again, we're just so excited moving forward.
Great. Gloria?
The staff definitely is to be commended for the creative development of this site. I know that the students, the school district will be very pleased with having some very nice tennis courts available for their athletic program. But there were two things that were brought up in our discussion on yesterday from some of the members of the subcommittee, and maybe should be addressed so that you will know that it is being considered. There was a question about drainage, and I think that was addressed. And also maybe moving the nutrition, the demonstration kitchen. So if you
Yes.
just those 2 items, I'd appreciate it.
Okay, well, I'll just explain it real quick if I can. The site, as I mentioned, has 10 feet of drainage from west to east, 10 feet of slope, excuse me. Drains actually to the northeast and the southeast. So there's going to be significant grading of the site to make all this work. We do have a retention area plan in this area in the northeast corner. Nothing that's not solvable, just it's going to require a little extra work on the site to make that work. On the floor plan, Gloria's talking about over here, we have the catering kitchen that Mark mentioned, the demonstration kitchen, and then some storage, and we're talking about maybe reversing this to provide more access from the corridor side. And that's one thing that we're definitely looking at. And there have been a number of other suggestions that the subcommittee made that we're looking at as well, too. So, okay.
Okay. Anyone else? Nathaniel?
I had a question. So there's a significant Hispanic population in the local area. Is there any kind of a mind for design or programming that would help kind of, I guess, capture some of the unique characteristics? Just of any local population, there's always a unique character to it. So is there any kind of mind to how can you get more community buy-in and participation in that design process?
In the design process? Well,
so whether it's through how the characteristics of the facility or how programming is done, maybe that's later on down the line, but just making sure that it's unique to its territory.
Yeah, I think it might be a little bit later on down the line, but I don't know if Randy has any comments about the community involvement in maybe the operations, or, it's a good point.
This particular area of town is heavily Hispanic. We want to make sure the interior, and as much as possible, the design is, what I've asked them to do is a nod to Spain, and to bring in those vibrant colors and those kinds of things. Our agency is also in the process of recruiting a person to develop a Hispanic workforce who one of our chief operating officers met on a mission. She's a social worker who primarily speaks Spanish, has learned English, and is relocating. And I think we'll be here in plenty of time to do that. We are also reaching out to the Latino Community Development Organization, looking at how they can also help with the services as we move forward on this.
Great, that's good to hear.
Nathaniel, just would add to that, a couple of the operating partners who have historically served the Hispanic community, like Sunbeam Family Services and Variety Care, have served this population for years. Their staff are bilingual. They're very culturally sensitive and competent. And so I think we are cognizant of that issue, and I know Randy is. And look, I think I'm feel pretty confident that we'll be able to address that cultural sensitivities.
I would like to point out that in January, you'll see a color material presentation that'll reflect some of the things that Randy just mentioned, vibrant colors, that sort of thing. So it's been interesting to implement that.
Other questions? Kim?
I don't really have a question. I want to commend you on one of my favorite words that highlighted this whole presentation for me, and it's flexibility. Because the key to longevity is flexibility. We can all learn a lot from Mother Willow. And whether it be as we age as seniors, flexibility of our mind, flexibility of our bodies, but not only that, but the center can be flexible with the environment as well. So great job. And Dr. Tom, just keep calm and senior on. You'll make it.
I had a question. Did I understand you to say that the parking is going to be shared with the high school? Could you talk about that a little bit?
Yes. This area, I'm going to use a laser pointer, but this area here down to this point is where the existing parking lot is that the city uses, the school uses for overflow primarily. Is not heavily used, but they do use it. So we are using a portion of it for the senior center parking, which is improved or is designed for accessibility, more so. And the existing parking lot is, as Mike mentioned, I think is kind of past its useful life. So as part of it, the part that we're not using over here, we are planning to resurface that for use by the school as well. So it'll be in much better shape when the project's finished.
So they're not actually sharing the same parking lot.
And
they have a dedicated parking lot for the senior center.
Yes, all this could be shared. Correct. This is though is dedicated to the school for their use.
Michael, what we learned is that if you've ever driven over there, you'll see for the most part during the day, there's no one parking there. That parking lot is very huge, and it's really used for football games, special events at the school, but for the most part during the day, as Alan told us as well yesterday, it's just not even normally utilized. That's why the school board, of course, was so enthusiastic, supportive of allowing us to use that part of that parking lot as well.
So, and the part that's remaining, this parking can be used to support the new tennis center, really. They're going to be lighted competition courts, and also could be used by the park as well. So all of this area, could be...
The parking lot directly north of the center will be dedicated to the users of the senior center.
Yes.
And it won't be students filling it up early in the morning such that there's no parking available or something like that.
Correct. Correct. But when the center's not in operation, it could be used for overflow.
It appears just from this preliminary presentation that this has been such a great partnership, able to take the concepts that North Care brought to the table, which are unique and special to the area, I think, and to begin to see it. Alan, you and I have had this conversation a lot. I'm not very good at spatial relations, but to see it begin to come off the paper and really translate into a three-dimensional building is really exciting.
Yes, and next presentation, you'll see a lot of interior views and more three-dimensional information, so that'll be helpful, too, to visualize.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Other questions? Thank you, Alan, and each of you. We appreciate the presentation. That brings us, David, to item number 7 on the agenda, the Whitewater facility.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have another presentation, but we're moving on to the river. There's a whole lot of activity at the river right now, just tons of work going on down there, and wanted to just give you a brief summary and let you see what's going on there at the river. So I have Ken Giannone, who is with the MAP staff here today. He's the project manager for both of the river projects that's ongoing, the Phase 2 project and the Whitewater facility. So I'd like to turn it over to Ken, show us what's going on.
David, considering the time, do you think we should have our Thanksgiving meal before Ken presents or after? No, I'm kidding. and welcome. We're glad you're here.
Thank you, and good morning, still morning. Good morning. I just wanted to show you a quick update. As David said, we've got a lot going on down at the river. 2 projects are active, Phase 2 improvements and the whitewater facility, which is really ramping up quickly. And we'll start off, talk about the Phase 2 improvements a little bit. Just a quick summary. We've been through this before, but Phase 2 improvements, it's a variety of items that basically improve the spectator experience and the racing experience for those down at Regatta Park. It's some judging towers, some lane marking system, docks, AV equipment, and a variety of other items, and I'll show some pictures of what those items are. That contract was awarded to Downey Contracting last December, so it's almost a year now. The construction price right now is about $4.8 million, and they are 96% complete, so they're just down to the last couple of odds and ends before they'll be done. And just as an example, here's 2 examples of the judging towers we installed. One of these is at the finish line, the other one I believe is at 1,500 meters, and they're all the same. And if you look at this next picture, you can get an idea of how they look kind of in context. The one closest to us on the right is at the finish line, and then you go down to 200 meters and 500 meter. And eventually there will be one at 1,000 meters, which we're waiting on ODOT to approve, and then there's one at 1,500 and 2,000 meters. So basically any length of race, you can have a judge in a tower who can start the timing system and the cameras and keep track of races. Next, this picture, it doesn't show up real well on the photograph, but this is a picture of our lane marking system, and they did have that. This is actually a picture from last spring. They did have this installed and used it all this past racing season, and they had a very good experience with it. It's not installed at the moment. They take it out for the winter, but next spring they will reinstall all the buoys, and it'll be right back for racing in the spring. Here's a couple of two different ramps. This is down at the 4,000 meter mark. This is for the long freestyle races they have sometimes. So actually this is Wiley Post Park. On the left is a boat ramp to actually get the boats in the river. And on the right is a pedestrian ramp that they use when they have judges and race officials. They can bring them down by boat and they can hop right out, and it makes it a lot easier for these longer races. Next, these enclosures, we built 5 of these. I have a picture of a few of them here. They serve a couple purposes. One is just to identify the various buildings in Regatta Park so spectators know where they're going and figure out what's where. A couple of these actually protect our transformers that we installed for the lighting project back a couple of years ago. It keeps them secure and away from the public. And a couple of the others are just for storage for the Boathouse Foundation for equipment and materials. This top picture you can see is just the one in front of Finish Line Tower. It identifies the tower. And in the bottom picture you can kind of see it's 3 of the 5 in a row along 6th Street, and there's actually 2 more further down 6th Street. Here's a picture of our storage building. This is actually on the south side of the river. This is where they store their gates, their starting gates. And it's a much easier process now because they can store them in that building and their own wheels, so they just roll them right out of the building, down the driveway. And on the left is a new ramp we also installed. So whenever there's a race, they can roll them right out and into the river, and when they're done, they roll them right back up and keep them stored in a secure environment. Next, this is a new video board we installed. Again, it doesn't show up real clear, but if you're actually out there and take a look at this, it's pretty much like watching TV. It's a really crystal clear picture. They could communicate, during events, they can communicate when races are starting and when different events are starting. And during, a normal time like now, you can't really see it, but this is actually a picture advertising the whitewater facility on the scoreboard right here. So it's a pretty neat little gadget. We installed a lot of wayfinding signage. So for spectators and people that aren't there regularly now, they can, if they're walking around Regatta Park, almost at any point, any place you're at, there's a sign nearby that'll point you. If you're looking for something, you can find your way around. And these are a couple of samples of the types of signs we put in. And now we'll move on. We'll talk about the whitewater facility. As opposed to Phase 2, which is kind of finishing up, whitewater facility, we're just kind of ramping up now. We're really getting into things. Just a quick summary. We issued notice of proceed to Downey Contracting September 26th. So that's just almost 2 months ago now. The original bid price was around $33.4 million. We got a change order 2, which actually you'll see in a few minutes here. If that is approved, our contract price will be down to about $29.1 million. So we have managed to value engineer the project quite a bit. Now we'll get to a couple pictures. This first one, this is an aerial shot. This was taken about a month ago. And I put this in here just to give you an idea how quickly and aggressively Downey has really started working. This was less than a month after notice to proceed, and you can see they've completed all their demolition. They have all their soil erosion control up. They've cleared the site. They've taken all the trees down. They stripped the topsoil. They've started excavating, all in literally less than a month. So they really are working hard and fast and doing some very good work. Now I'll get on to kind of what's happening at the moment. All these pictures most of these are taken within the last week. I'll be honest, it's not totally exciting, this kind of big project like this. Some of the work, the preliminary work is a little, not quite as exciting as you'd like, but it's got to happen so we can get to the exciting stuff. And one of the things we're concentrating on right now is utility work. On the left, we're raising a lot of existing manholes. They got to be, we're raising the grade there, so obviously we have to raise all the manholes up so they'll meet that grade. On the right is just, we're getting ready to put in a bunch of new water mains, and that's all the materials there, getting ready to go in the ground. And another big part of the utility work is there's a large existing sewer main that runs along the perimeter of our site. And since we're raising grade so much, we're putting a lot of new weight on top of that. So we have to build a concrete cradle on top. And we've been doing that. And actually, I believe, and you can confirm this, Jeffrey, they're finishing that up as we speak today. So that took about a month, but they're just finishing that up. Then they can backfill, and again, we can start raising our grade up to kind of build our mountain, basically. This is a picture, and I put this in here because this is going to be a familiar scene. If you drive by the site regularly, you're probably going to see something like this quite often, because for the next probably 6 months, we're going to be just trucking in dirt, scraping it, compacting it, testing it, bringing more in, scraping it, compacting it. So it's going to be a long process, but it'll look a lot like this for several months. But again, it's all part of kind of building our mountain so we can have a whitewater facility. Here is the beginnings of this is the main building. We're building a retaining wall along the riverfront, and this is actually the foundation of that retaining wall. We will then build the retaining wall itself, backfill behind it, at which point we can actually put our foundations in and begin building that main building. And there's another picture just later the same day. That foundation is now poured, and as we speak, they're now building those retaining walls up. So we're not too far away from being able to actually start building foundations for that main building. And this is the start of the excavation. This is our pump station. Again, this is basically the gist of the project here. This is where we actually take that water and pump it 20-some feet up in the air so it can run downhill by gravity and create our whitewater. And this is just the start of the excavation. This was taken a couple weeks ago, right around Halloween. And this was actually taking last Friday, where we were pouring what we call a mud slab. Rather than usually for subgrade, when it's wet, we'll put in a couple feet of stone and compact it, and it's messy and takes a long time. Downey came up, to their credit, decided, rather than do that, let's just pour some concrete down there so we've got a firm work surface. We can go to town once that's set up. And they did that. And this is a picture of that, as it's happening. And here's a picture of it just after they finished. And again, this all happened last Friday. And as we speak, they're now forming their actual slab. And once that slab is poured, they'll start building the pump station walls, and we'll be going to town. And that is the last thing I had, but I'll be glad to take some questions.
Sure. Dee, anything you want to tell us about the subcommittee's thoughts of this?
Yes, we are very excited that we're 96% finished with Phase 2 and looking forward to it. We worry about every penny, every dime, things that are being switched out when we have enough time, but we're very confident in the staff and the people working on the project that they're going to make this come in. It's going to be whole and a fantastic addition to Oklahoma City. So, Mike, do you have anything?
I don't know that I have much to add. We saw the presentation yesterday, and it's very good, and it's good to see all the progress. I think there was some comment made about the pump size. David, did you get a chance to follow up on that? Somebody claimed they thought maybe it was the largest pumps. Or
Jeffrey, did we have, probably hadn't had time to follow up on that, as far as the pumps being the largest in the world?
We have not. I know KSP, they do make a larger pump, not for this type of application. They have one that is about twice the size of this. Sorry. I don't have the specifics on the pump, but they do make one for basically stormwater treatment runoff. So in DC, they just recently installed one that does pump out about twice as much volume on the flow, but doesn't have as much head as what we're doing. So for this application, it's the very largest.
There's several things with a pump, and that's how high it can raise the water and the volume that it can move, and that's what he's talking about.
Other questions?
One of the other things we talked about in the meeting briefly was kind of how the contractor was feeling now that he was on site. And, we talked a couple of months ago about the bid coming in a little high, and maybe part of that was trepidation on the part of the contractor about the tightness of the site and some unexpected things. You might just share kind of how they're faring and how they're feeling. Based on the pictures, it looks like things are just going great guns.
Sure. That was certainly a concern of ours. This is the second facility in the U.S. of this size, and we were certainly concerned that contractors wouldn't have the experience or depth of knowledge to build the facility. They would learn as they go. I can't say anything but positive things about Downey. They tackled this like the project it is. It's a horizontal infrastructure project. It's very little building when you look at it. The buildings are fairly traditional. It's a horizontal utility project. When it's all said and done, it's dirt and concrete, and they understand that. And I think they take quite a bit of risk in the way they staged the site so far, and I think it's paid off so far. We get a couple days of rain out there. That does set us back. It is, as you saw from the pictures, it's 15 acres of dirt right now, so that could impact the project. But they're taking every precaution right now, and so far everything looks good, and I think we've got a good step going forward.
Thank you. Other questions? Well, then let's move on to item 8. It also concerns the Whitewater facility. David?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item 8 is recommend resolution approving change order number 2 for MAPS 3 Oklahoma River Phase 3 Whitewater Facility, a decrease of $246,211.32, project M3-R004/WC-0817 and SC-0912. Remember that we're still working on doing some of the value engineering items, and what you have before you is change order number 2, which continues some of those value engineer items, but we also have some items that have come up during construction. So we have 8 items that are at zero cost or are a deduct, and we have 4 items that are adds. And I'll just hit the biggest ones here, if that's all right, or if you have specific questions. But pedestrian bridge revision, if you recall, we revised that from a specialty design bridge to basically a, so to speak, off-the-shelf type standard bridge. It will look almost as good. It will function certainly as well. And there's a savings of $161,644. One of the adds that we do have on this is some construction debris removal. Regardless of how many test holes we punched out there and didn't find anything, when they started excavation for that piece of the channel that extends from the building up to the pump station is the part that's actually below ground and not part of the fill section that Kim was talking about. So as they started doing that excavation, they found some things that had been put there many, many years ago, chunks of concrete, some trees, pipes, those kind of things, and you can't leave those in the fill because they will cause unnecessary and unneeded settlement with the building. So we have a price of $114,194 to remove and truck that out to a landfill. Then there's also a credit of $110,924 for some equipment within the pump station. This was approved by the River Subcommittee this week, and I'll be glad to answer any other questions you might have.
I would move approval of the change order.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the change order. Noteworthy for all committees, 2 change orders. One reduces the cost by $4 million. Change order 2 by $200,000.
Yes, sir.
An interesting habit you've started.
Just going in a different direction than we're used to.
Is there further discussion? All in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The resolution is approved. That brings us to item 9.
Mr. Chairman, item 9 is a presentation on the State Fairgrounds Phase 2 Expo Building, and again, we have Alan Brown here from FSB, and just wanted to give you an idea of what was going on out there, since this is a very large project, and it is well underway. So I'd like to hand it off to Alan.
Alan, welcome again.
Hello again. So, I'd like to let you know what is going on at the fairgrounds right now and give you a construction update. The first slide we've got here shows you the area of activity that the contractor is working in right now. It's a south portion of the site primarily. The TNT building, which was preserved for use for the fair, is going to be turned over next Monday to the contractor for abatement and demolition, and then they can have the entire site. But right now, what I'm going to show you, the photos is all on the south part of the site. These photographs show you, they're in the site preparation phase, which involves removing or relocating utilities, basically clearing the site for construction. And these are trenches that show utilities that have been they're being removed on the site. Then backfill is placed. So these are all it's all site preparation work. You can see this was looking sort of east. You can see the TNT building to the left. Obviously, this is looking directly north across the site. So all the paving's been removed, and it's being prepared. Another trench. So there's not much you can see right now on the site. For a while, it's going to be earthwork. This is the TNT building on the right. That shows the access lane that was preserved for access during the events that have happened recently, and that'll be removed starting next week. And after the site's prepared, the first area of next construction activity will be foundations on the south part of the site, and then they'll work to the north. The demolition of the TNT building will take a little time. There's going to be asbestos abatement involved, which we're going to talk to you about in just a minute. So today we're going to go over the proposed change order. I wish it was all a reduction like the last one, but it's a mixture. The first item on the change order is concession modification. There are 4 concession areas. We've modified 2 of them to go from, at the request of the State Fair, from a closed sort of a counter type concept to more of an open concept where you can walk in. It's kind of a food court type area. There was actually a net deduct to make those modifications. The second one was utility modification requested by the utility department, and changing the backfill type based on experience of the fairgrounds. We use sand, and they would prefer gravel. Revise the water line to provide one single separate water line to the site. We have multiple connections to the main at the fairgrounds, and they preferred one single line connected to theirs. The third item is asbestos abatement. I remember, as I just mentioned, for the travel and transportation building, sort of an unforeseen item that was discovered, and so the city evaluated several ways of doing that, and this is the most cost-effective and least impact on the schedule. 4 is electrical credit, and that was actually suggested by the electrical subcontractor, which we agreed with, Valsman Switching, which we appreciate them bringing that to everybody's attention. A net deduct of $33,000. Landscape modifications is a no charge. It basically just clarified the landscape required for the project is combined with Phase 1 and Phase 2, and where that's placed on the site, so there was no change. It was just a clarification. And then amendment number 1, which is a little different, is called for in the contract. As they do site work and they dig, they find unforeseen conditions, but just aren't identified, can't find in a soil report, so they run into certain areas where they have to remediate the fill, and this is for additional, called select fill, because the dirt that they excavated wasn't suitable. But we anticipated this, and we had a unit price in the contract to provide for unforeseen situation like this. So the total new contract amount would be $37,293,647.38. So to put in context with the budget, the original construction contract amount is $36,920,000, and change order number 1 represents 0.93% of the original construction contract. And amendment number 1 is separate, and it does not go against the project contingency as well, since it was provided for in the contract. So the new construction contract amount will be $37,293,647.38, as I mentioned. We still have 4 projects as part of the budget that are going to be bid. First is the movable fixtures, furnishings, and equipment. Second is Wi-Fi system, devices, and cabling. We provide all the conduits in the facility as part of the construction contract. Third is the security system, devices, and cabling. Again, we have the conduits in place in the construction. And the fourth is site wayfinding and digital signage. So there's before contracts that will be bid and let as a project progresses. The schedule. The notice proceeded was in September. The original substantial completion was Leap Day in 2016, which would have been interesting, but now it's going to be, because of the asbestos abatement, will be March 10th of 2016. So with that, are there any questions?
A procedural question, David. Are we including item 10, which I think he has included in his presentation?
No, I just let him do the explaining for me.
Well, I mean, but are we considering both item 9 and 10 here? Not yet?
No.
Oh, all right. Okay, Bob, anything you want to tell us from the subcommittee?
Oh, I just can't resist. Alan, can you put up that very first picture of the, all right, the next slide. That one right there. I just noticed that today the Bricktown has its canal. We now have a canal on the state fairgrounds. Although this one is very temporary and it doesn't have any water taxis.
It's a temporary canal, yes.
Unfortunately, that will disappear as the construction goes on, but we try to make the best of it as we can.
Yeah.
Things are going well.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, one thing that I reminded everybody is that it will look this way for a long time, in that there's so many things that are underground. There's the water and the sewer and the gas and the electric and all those things under that slab. And as you drive by, you'll see nothing coming up for a long time, but there's a significant amount of work going on, and then eventually you'll see the vertical elements coming up.
Thank you.
The contractor anticipates starting the foundation work in about a month, as I understand. So, but the demolition of TNT will happen after next week, so it should be interesting.
Okay. Thank you, Alan. Any other questions?
David, it looks like we may have a lot of ribbon cuttings in 2016. Like everything's coming to a head. There's a lot of things coming ahead at the same time.
It'll be a busy year.
Yes.
Oh, great. Thank you, Alan.
All right, thank you.
Well, that completes the presentation on that item. Let's move to item 10. We have a resolution before us. David?
Yes, sir. It's recommended resolution approving change order number 1 and amendment number 1 for MAPS 3, Oklahoma State Fairgrounds Phase 2 New Expo Building, increase of $373,647.38, project M3-F002. And Alan hit pretty much on all the items on there, and if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
It's been moved and seconded that we accept the resolution. Is there further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The resolution is approved. That brings us to item 11. David, are you aware of any new business to come before the advisory board?
I am not.
All right. Then let's move to item 12 on the agenda. Any reports or comments from any of the subcommittees? Nathaniel.
Yes, so regarding the streetcar, we received our proposals from manufacturers recently, 2 days ago, in fact, and we have 7 proposals from 4 different companies. So that's really good news, and we'll be reviewing those. There's a lot of material, but we'll be reviewing those and have our selection committee meeting and move that on down the approval process.
Anyone else? Well, a question. Mr. Crumb's article today talked about the decision about weighting, W-E-I-G-H-T, weighting. Would you enlighten us on that?
So there's, I didn't actually get a chance to read the article yet, but I did see that
Well,
he has it out there. But essentially, there's 4 or 5 different major categories that each have a certain weight. So things ranging from the cost to technical specifications to track record of the company, and it's all out there in the RFP. And so all of the different proposers saw the same information. But then as far as the review process, that's kind of our guide for how we try to balance which the proposals is the best and which ones we want to move forward.
Good.
Nathaniel, we'll be getting help on that original scoring by our consultant, Jacobs.
Right. So yeah, there'll be an explanation of everything. So a layperson like me will have a lot of it really broken down, and then make sure that we all understand, everybody on the review committee, ranging from lay people to people, in planning and people that are in acquisitions, that they'll have the same kind of criteria and the same information that's been extracted and distilled out of these proposals. So, because I don't know how many pages there are, but there has to be hundreds, maybe 1,000 pages of material between all the proposals. So, it's a very formulaic process in terms of how we try to fairly evaluate the information, but there's also the ability to really kind of balance the different qualitative aspects.
Other questions? All right. Any other subcommittee need to be heard? All right. That brings us to some informational items. David?
Mr. Chairman, in your packet is information items, the joint use agreement and cooperative construction and maintenance agreement. And this is the agreement to allow us to put the last or final judging tower between the 2 I-35 bridges along the river. And that was approved by council and was sent on to the Department of Transportation. And then the contract award was processed for those pumps for the Whitewater facility. And then there's also a permanent easement that was purchased for sidewalk construction.
Questions about the informational items? All right, then let's move to item 14. David, your update.
Real quickly, we saw a lot today, so we saw everything on the river and wellness. We know that both those wellness centers are in design. Don't forget about trails and sidewalks. We still have Phase 1, Project 3 of the sidewalks under construction. We have Phase 1 Trails Project 1 and 2 under construction, and that's the trail along the river. We have Phase 2 Project 1 sidewalks under construction. We have Phase 3 sidewalks in design. And we have Phase 2 trails, which is the I-44 corridor, in design. Convention Center conceptual design is complete and contract approved this past Tuesday by council, so design will begin on the Convention Center. Fairgrounds, you saw an update on the expo building, and the parking and utilities are complete. The park design continues with coordination of utility relocation. And then Mr. Harding mentioned the RFP that has been received for the streetcar, and preliminary design on the line continues.
Questions for David? All right, that brings us then to item 15, comments by board staff and citizens. I want to start by saying a thank you to some members of the subcommittee. Councilmember Salyer and I serve on the board of the Greater Oklahoma City Chamber, and MAPS 3 was the subject matter of their recent retreat out of the city, and they invited a good number of our colleagues to participate in that, including the mayor came, and with Nathaniel serving on the panel, discussed transit. And Jim Couch, our city manager, and David were there with me to make sure we didn't say anything that we shouldn't say, and to provide some input, as well as Mike Mize, who was there. But also serving on panels there were Gloria and Kim, and I just wanted to say thank you to all of you for coming. We ask a lot of you on your time to do the subcommittees and come to the Citizens Advisory Board. So when you go the extra mile to tell the MAS 3 story to the business leaders in our community, I think that's an important function. I want to just say thank you to all of you who participated in that. It was, the report I have is that it was well received. All right, anybody else have a comment? All right then, staff, anything else, David? This is the opportunity for citizens to participate in this process. Any citizens here want to be heard? If not, Councilmember Salyer has moved we adjourn, and Michael has seconded it. All in favor say aye. Aye. We're adjourned. You look like the most...